am this guy. I am Captain Gimpy. I am the Lord of Gimpia. Although in Spanish I'm told it's Gimpio, but if it's a Greek word, the ending can be used with a masculine noun. So I'm just going to pretend it's from Greek. Yo soy el Cristo de Gimpia. Y bienvenidos a mi stream. So today, actually give me a second, I'm gonna close the door. Alright. Today I know I'm late, but I have 3 really cool things to do with you guys today. And I'll mention them in a second. I just forgot my door was still open. Hold on. So today I wanted to do a couple of things. I wanted to show you a trailer for a really great movie that features a disabled character that I watched last week. And I wanted to kind of give you my thoughts and impressions since the DNA of my whole YouTube endeavor was to review movies. So yeah, let's start off with that. And then after that, what I'm going to do is talk about a video that a YouTuber by the name of Princess Aspien did on the use of functioning labels to describe autistic people. And why that's not a good idea. Like, I agree with her, I just wanted to share my running thoughts as we watch the video together. And the last thing I want to do with you guys today is to read a New York Times article from the series 80A at 30. So without further ado, let's get to the trailer for a film called Standing Up for Sunny. Give me a second to cue that up for y'all. Where did you go? Where are my playlists? I wish YouTube would filter these alphabetically. Apparently it does not. Yeah, where did it go, dude? What? You know what? If I can't find the playlist I just made with them, I will do it myself. Alright. I guess I can't find it, so we're gonna cue this up manually. We're good. We're good. Let's cue this up manually. Alright, so first we're going to look at the trailer for Standing Up for Sunny. It's an Australian romantic comedy starring people whose names I cannot recall. 1 second as I consult the almighty oracle of IMDb. Well, at least it's almighty when it comes to movies. It's not really an oracle. It's actually quite bad at predicting how a movie will do because a lot of people leave premature reviews trying to tank a movie before it ever hits festivals. I found that happening. I know one dude. Oh, crap. I know one dude in this movie, so I wanted to give you guys a better idea of who was in it than what I knew. For obvious reasons. So, this movie is a romantic comedy starring R.J. Mitty, who you may remember as Walter Jr. from Breaking Bad. He has cerebral palsy in real life and in the film. It stars Sam Reed, who you might know from the movie Belle, which is the biopic about Belle Dido. And he was really good in that. He is not as good in this movie, but it's mostly because of the writing of his part specifically. It also stars Philippa Northeast, who apparently is an Australian soap opera actress whose acting in this film gets trounced on by Aussie natives. But I feel like that has more to do with the fact that she's a soap opera actress than that she's bad, because I thought she was pretty good. So, what is this movie about? Well, instead of summarizing it for you, let's watch the trailer. Follow me, follow me, follow me, if you will. So we're going to share the audios, and then we're going to go to Chrome tab, and then we're going to queue up the trailer. All right.
Give it up for a very funny guy, mysterious bag man.
This is the story of my best friend.
Girls like guys they can fix, right? I'm like catnip to the ladies.
Travis is so relaxed. Nobody dreams of being alone forever. Come on, just talk to the pretty girl. How hard can it be? It'll be fun. I just want to see if you need help.
How would this work? I'm gonna go get me another beer with a lot of head. So clever. Lucky you're a freaking retard, man. The body's fine. The brain is fine. Kind of the opposite of you.
Nice work. How about you come in and give us some tips on how to repel people like that?
How do I learn to do what you did?
Tony has assertiveness issues, don't they?
Oh, I forgot something. Give me a second. Dude, they changed the interface on me. Hold on. So I'm going to do it like this. My bad, dudes. I apologize.
All right. Give it up for a very funny guy, mysterious bag man.
Yeah, I have issues.
This is the story of my best friend.
Girls like guys they can fix, right? I'm like catnip to the ladies.
Travis is a solo act. Nobody dreams of being alone forever. Come on, just talk to the pretty girl. How hard can it be? It'll be fun.
I just want to see if you need help.
How would this work?
I'm gonna go get me another beer with a lot of head. So clever. Lucky you're a freaking retard, man. The body's fried. The brain is fine. Kind of the opposite of you.
Nice work. How about you come in and give us some tips on how to repel people like that?
How do I learn to do what you did?
Sonny has assertiveness issues, don't you, babe?
If you say so.
Why do you see that guy?
Hey! Okay, rude.
I'm not superficial. I do all the telethons. Those things go all night. The biggest comedy festival on the planet. We're going to enter you into the open mic contest. I want you guys together, working on comedy gold. From now on, you two are inseparable.
Initiate launch procedure.
You're really a piñata full of crazy, aren't you?
Yes!
Do you know what it is to want something even if it doesn't make sense?
No, I'm crazy. Why'd you do that?
I need you to trust me. Can you call me? There's something I need to tell you.
I don't need you. I don't need anyone.
You're making the biggest mistake of your
I
life.
can't be in a relationship with someone that doesn't trust me.
What is it?
I saw her hugging Mikey and just assumed.
Hey, numbnuts, talk to her.
Your friend can't come back, Serge.
He's disabled. I'm his carer.
You're blind.
He's an equal opportunity employer. He's in love, and his girl is out there.
You can have 2 of my minutes.
Thank you so much.
What are you going to say?
I have absolutely no clue.
Somebody is about to eat a big shit sandwich.
I'm like a cat. Always land on my feet.
Okay, we're gonna pause that. All right, dudes. So as you can see, now that I don't have to summarize the movie for you, the movie is about a dude with CP who is given a job to teach Philippa's character about how to be more assertive and deal with hecklers. And as a result, the relationship that develops between them is really quite sweet. It touches on several issues related to disability. One is self-image and the development of toxic anger, right? And that comes about through a discussion of childhood trauma, which I also thought was very well done. I forgot to mention the Islander dude, the blind guy in this movie was played by a dude named Italia Hunt. He plays a Samoan dude, and he's like one of my favorite characters in the movie. He adds much needed levity and embodies the worldview that I try and sometimes fail to inhabit. Super funny. RJ Mitty was really, really good in this movie. For those of you that don't know much about his story, it's hardly noticeable that he has CP these days, to use his own words, unless he's tired. You can barely tell, but it took a lot of effort for him to get there. Extensive physical therapy, a lot of working out, a lot of occupational therapy, and just a lot of trial, error, and grit to get there. And when he takes a role for someone with CP, he often says that he has to exaggerate things because, he doesn't naturally come off that way anymore, I guess, according to what he even said, I guess. Because to him, he's still conscious of the CP, but he's also aware that a lot of people don't necessarily see it until they're super up close. So he says he has to, make it more obvious. I think there are a couple of things that this movie does really well. First of all, I like the fact that the character is an aspiring stand-up comic. I like the fact that he struggles with issues of self-worth and anger. It's something that I myself have had to deal with for a lot of years, and I think that him playing opposite of Philippa, who plays Sunny in this, was a brilliant choice. I think she comes off as unbelievably sweet, but later in the movie you find out that she's carrying around her own story that, let's call it, that ends up being really intrusive in her life, and I think that was handled very well. It also deals a lot with family skeletons. All in all, guys, I think y'all should see the movie. One of the things that it made me think of is how easy it is for us to develop really severe anger issues when early on in life we're treated very poorly by others, especially when that comes from family. And that's something that is pretty well explored in this movie. And one of the things, I watched a Soul Pancake mini documentary a little while back that I thought was really great, and it dealt with anxiety and depression, and it was a bunch of comedians who were in the documentary, and this movie made me think of that, because one of the things that they said that I've found to be true for myself is that if I don't make fun of this stuff, it eats away at me, right? So humor is a way of kind of diffusing that, not just for other people, but also for myself cognitively and emotionally. And I think humor is a very powerful tool for dissembling that type of stuff before it gets too poisonous. And to be honest with you, I wasn't very funny growing up because my family had a very America's Funniest Video style humor, which doesn't really lend itself to reinterpreting your relationship to the real world, right? Because it's very physical. And I learned my current take on my personal humor from the late, great Robin Williams, to whom I will be forever grateful. He was probably the first step in my journey of learning to deal with depression in a better way. And I know some of you were like, oh yeah, but he committed suicide. He also had Lewy body dementia, which was fast progressing. It was also early onset. And so according to his family, from what I've read, his choice was due to the fact that not only was he depressed already, but also because the one thing that he thought he provided the world was going to be taken away from him by this condition. So I don't know if I necessarily count that. I will always be grateful to Robin Williams. He taught me to look at life and find the funny. And I try to do that every day. Sometimes I fail hard, but it really, really helps, and I definitely recommend taking a look at that. And I wish I would have linked it because I think it's amazing. What else can I say? Sam Reed is a really great actor, but in this movie that doesn't necessarily come across because he is written only as a foil to the two protagonists, which doesn't give his character much room to breathe and become his own person or participate in a nuanced way in the film's conflict. It is very much an indie romantic comedy with a dark tinge to it. I think it's a wonderful movie, and if you guys are interested, in about the third week of October, I will be doing an Amazon Prime watch party, and I will re-announce that as the day draws nearer. Also, if I'm being honest, my real life experience with many people often precludes the idea that you'll become friends with an able-bodied woman and then end up dating her. Usually that doesn't happen so much, and a lot of people are more turned off by the disability thing than you'd imagine, although very few people would actually admit it, but I have to be real about that. In actuality, I could see them being very good friends and eventually getting together. I just don't think it would happen that fast. It's not impossible. It's a thing. I don't want to ruin the movie for you guys, except to say you should definitely watch it. As soon as I get like a rating system graphic going, I will give it 4.5 wheelchair symbols out of 5 because I think it's that good. So yeah, stay tuned for the specifics of the watch party. I'll be doing a test stream with a different movie just to make sure it works the week prior. Hopefully you guys will be there for both because I'd love to talk to you about this stuff. I think representation in the media is super important, as you guys know, and I think this did an amazing job. And the stand-up routine is genuinely funny. Like, if RJ Mitty had written material like that and he started doing stand-up comedy, I'd be there in a heartbeat. It's amazing. The next thing I would like to do, I watched a video by a YouTuber by the name of Princess Aspien, also known as Chloe, in the YouTube space. And she brought up a very, excuse me, burping, sorry. She brought up a very good topic, and it's about the use of functioning labels to describe autistic people, and why that's not such a good idea. When I say I'm going to react to the video, I mean that I'm going to pause every once in a while and offer you my thoughts and tell you why. Maybe it's a horrible idea and give you some alternatives. And yeah, so without further ado, let us flip over to that video. Un segundo while I get that ready. Okay, let us turn this on the restreams.
My name's Chloe, otherwise known as Princess Aspien, and welcome to my channel. Just be me. So, functioning labels is something in the autism community that is looked at more than just about anything, and it's something that people look at to determine your level of autism. We see it consistently, and oftentimes the functioning label is more important than the fact that the person is autistic themselves. Oh, but he's high functioning. Yeah, but it's fine. She's on the other end of the spectrum. They're mildly autistic. They're severely autistic. Yes, but you can achieve those things because you're high functioning. It doesn't count. At this point...
Okay. So the first thing I want to say about that is that is one of the best and shortest summaries of what functioning labels actually are. So I was diagnosed with what you would call, oh dang, okay, the caption's in the way. Let me turn that off. I apologize to my deaf viewers. I'm sorry. So high functioning, low functioning, high functioning, severe, mild, all of these things are what you would refer to as functioning labels. And one of these, at first it was intended to be like a medically apt description of someone's ability to function according to the medical model of disability, which describes things in terms of symptoms and disorders. But what ended up happening is within autistic communities, that includes parents of people with autism, right? What that started to do was create a hierarchy of autism, which essentially means, like, if you were mildly autistic, quote unquote, then you were given the label Asperger's syndrome, which meant that, like, I've even seen some people on the spectrum say, oh, well, I'm not really autistic, I have Asperger's syndrome or whatever, because, if you're, abroad, they call it Asperger's, but, Hans Asperger was the dude, so, I pronounce it that way. And so what that ended up doing was creating a divide between people who were quote-unquote high-functioning and basically everybody else on the spectrum. And the problem with that is I've known a bunch of people who were labeled high-functioning autistic in one way or another and still had problems in day-to-day life that they couldn't find readily described by their diagnostic label. And so that's why I thought this video was super important. I will largely leave the rest of the video uninterrupted unless I think something important. So let me get back to clicking it.
People are treating functioning labels like a seasoned chicken,
right,
or how well done you would like your steak. Both odd terminologies for a vegan, but there we go. Functioning labels, whether you would like to consciously consider this or not, are used to describe a person's inabilities and how normal they appear or don't appear. They were created by non-autistic people who have no experience with autism, who know very little about autism, or better yet, want to make things easier to understand for the neurotypical community by alienating the autistic community.
Yeah.
For a long time now, high functioning has been seen as someone that is just a little bit autistic, who is just a little bit quirky, while the term low functioning is often used to describe someone who requires excessive care and is seen as a burden. The terminology used to declare these things has been used to diminish and belittle an entire spectrum for a really long time. And I get it. It's terminology that's been used for a really long time. It gives you as a viewer an understanding of a brain that's different than yours. It makes people feel comfortable and understood in why some autistic people are one way and why others are another way. Albeit a very wrong understanding, but still the only understanding that we had for a very long time. So let's change that language because it's about bloody time. I'm about to drop a bombshell. Although if you have gotten this far and if you've read the title, you probably already know what I'm about to say. Functioning labels don't exist. Oops. Autism is a spectrum, but we need to stop looking at that spectrum like it's a linear line. Like one end is severe.
I'm just going to say real quick that this was probably one of the best alternative views of autism I've ever heard explained, and she did it in less than 8 minutes. And I am super impressed. If you guys are interested in this topic, please subscribe to Princess Aspien. I don't know her, I just think her content is cool. And yeah, so if you're watching on either YouTube or Facebook, you will find a link to this specific video, and then you can subscribe to her channel. And, also watch the video if you don't want to hear me talk.
And the other end is just a little bit quirky around the edges. That's not how autism works, and to think that it does work like that is extremely outdated and horribly invalidating. By this way of thinking, you're telling one entire group that they are incapable, while telling another group that their struggles don't matter, neither of which is accurate in any sense. Instead of looking at it like a linear spectrum, instead of looking at it like a fine line, we need to start looking at it like it's a soundboard. Or better yet, like a color palette. Give me a second.
A few moments later.
Alright, let's imagine that this is the autism spectrum, and each pixel of color represents a different struggle, a different strength, a different identity. But it's all still autism. This color here might be my color, and how autism represents itself for me, my struggles, my strengths, my autism. You might be this color, and that represents your strengths and your struggles and what autism is for you. Neither of these colors are considered more or less color than the other color. The strengths and the struggles and what makes you you aren't defined in this. They're both just colors. And that's the way that we need to start looking at it. That's the way that we need to start seeing autism. Because right now, there are so many issues about the way that we view functioning labels. Invalidation, false beliefs, stigmas that have attached themselves to both sides. For a very long time, and that's inclusive of today, people have looked at an autistic person and chosen what their values are based on their functioning label. Those that are described as one end of the spectrum are going to be seen as incapable and therefore treated like children. They won't be given the respect they deserve, and the things that they can do will be overlooked, instead to just look at the things that they can't do. A label like this already denies the person to be able to thrive in their own way at their own time. On the flip side, those on the other end.
So are you starting to see the problem here? The issue with functioning labels is that they categorize people based on their ability to blend in to what we would often consider normal, right? And when you do that, you're automatically creating a situation where you're saying there's something wrong with this person, but not this person. And the problem with that is both of them will identify issues that they have, and you're serving neither of them very well. And that's the primary issue with using functioning labels to talk about the autisms.
End of the spectrum may be seen as quirky and just needing a bit of an attitude adjustment. Their struggles and the reasons for those struggles won't be cared for or looked at. People often use low functioning as a term to describe a person who needs more care. Often if a person is nonverbal, they will then also consider that person low functioning. By calling someone low functioning for not being able to communicate properly, you're invalidating their ability to communicate in their own way, which really, again, doesn't make sense for them to be low functioning when we're the ones that aren't understanding. And they will use this terminology to belittle that person's strengths and abilities and who they are as a person. And while I understand that that person's journey is entirely different to someone like mine, it doesn't make their journey or my journey any less or any more valued and important. Now, I know he isn't autistic, but if we had a look at Stephen Hawking and we have a look at him the same way that we look at low functioning autistics, I can guarantee you that he would have also been described as low functioning, when very, very clearly that isn't the case. In fact, I have seen multiple stories of described low functioning autistics who are thriving more so than most neurotypical people ever will. Someone's mind isn't any less valued or brilliant or valid because of the struggles that come with it, or better yet, because of the struggles that you can see. It's all the same. And just like you wouldn't look at someone who is neurotypical and describe them as a low functioning or high functioning neurotypical.
This is about to blow your freaking mind. I just wanted to say that because, like, what we often don't do when it comes to talking about things like this is we don't try to use those types of labels in other circumstances to try to test the validity of whether or not it describes anything real.
Because that would be utterly bizarre. It also doesn't make sense to do it to someone that is autistic. Their struggles and their strengths are their struggles and their strengths on an individual, personal basis. And continuing to use these functioning labels or telling people that are autistic that they are or are not as autistic as someone else, it's creating an unnecessary divide. Autism isn't a dirty word, and you don't need a label stuck onto someone's head to try and hide or show their struggles. Now, here's the thing. I know that a lot of people use functioning labels to describe a person and to describe what their supports are and what their needs are. I know a lot of educators that do it, I know doctors that do it, and I know many, many, many autism parents that do it. But it does absolutely no good and is incredibly counterproductive. In fact, there is literally no point for it. There is absolutely no point to be using the terms high and low functioning. It doesn't work. It also does not exist. One autistic person is going to experience many different levels and variations of functioning throughout their lifetime, even daily. It's all dependent on their current situation, on their mental health, on the support system that's around them. Context and support can be the difference between a thriving autistic and a struggling autistic. Functioning labels exempt. So instead of looking at an autistic person like a functioning label and like a linear spectrum where one end needs this sort of support and the other end needs this sort of support, why don't we start looking at people on an individual, personal, case-to-case basis? Every single one of us is different, and every single one of us is going to have different support needs. Every single one of us is going to fit onto this color palette differently. I'm an autistic woman, and I am proud of that. It's not a low-functioning autistic, it's not a high-functioning autistic, it's just an autistic woman, and that's enough for me. It should also be enough for you guys as well. It's important that we support our autistic friends, our autistic family members, our autistic students, and are proud of them for existing existing in a world that isn't built for them. As you should with anyone, give them support and do not base them upon their abilities. We are who we are, and that's all it should be. Every single one of us are different. Not just those of us that are autistic, but those of us that aren't autistic, that are neurotypical, who have other things going on as well. We all fit into this color palette, and that rainbow is what makes the world so beautiful. So let's...
Okay, so that's basically like the end of the video. So what I'm going to do is talk about a couple things. Tell you a story about some people that I've known, and all that good shit. So she made a lot of really good points. And so some of you might be asking, well, if this is the case, how the hell do we talk about autism in a more productive way if functioning labels don't work? And the short answer is I don't have an easy answer for you. One proposed change is that instead of saying high functioning versus low functioning, we use the terms high support needs, moderate support needs, and low support needs. And you might be asking the same question I did when I first heard that. Well, how the hell is that going to make a difference? Isn't that just the same thing? Well, yes and no. Because think about it this way. If I tell you that I'm high-functioning autistic, you'd be like, oh, but you're pretty normal. You can read, speak, think, fuck, whatever, and you're fine. Like, you're just a little quirky. Where this person has real autism, right? They're low-functioning or severely autistic. And when you say that, like, what you're saying is there's nothing wrong with me, I'm just quirky. Whereas the other person, there's something definitely wrong with them, and that's messed up. So just by changing the language from that to high support, moderate support, low support needs, you're changing a diagnosis from saying like, oh, there's something, this person's okay, there's something wrong with that person, to a paradigm where you're like, okay, if this person has higher moderate support needs and this person has low support needs, well, what supports do they actually need to function well within their own capacities and with their own challenges? And I think that change in language alone is super duper valuable. I would prefer that we didn't have to do that at all, but like knowing that people need labels in order to understand and act on things, like, that's probably the better option. I never really thought of the autism spectrum as a photoshopped color palette, and I thought that was a brilliant way of looking at it. And she also brought up the point where we wouldn't necessarily say that someone's a high-functioning neurotypical versus a low-functioning neurotypical, although if you wanted to be like super mean and rigid about it, you definitely could, and it might map out. But the fact that we don't do that to describe neurotypical people, and we do that all the time to describe neurodivergent folks, right? It does say something about our society. And to sort of close out this stream, I will now attempt to read aloud to you. Well, actually, I could have my computer read it out loud. I'm going to read and respond to an article that was put out by the New York Times as part of their ADA at 30 series. I'm actually going to have my computer read it, and then I'm going to respond to it when it wraps up, because I don't think you guys want to hear me read an article, so you're going to hear a computer voice instead, because, well, if I'm being honest, I'm self-conscious about reading aloud. Oh, first I have to share it. Okay.
Times Insider, exploring what disability means today and could mean tomorrow. 30 years after the passage of the ADA, a Times project featuring more than 24 articles looks at the many facets of the law's impact on the work that still lies ahead. Image description: a man wearing a black mask and latex gloves helps produce pages in Braille. The Clovernop Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired is creating a Braille edition of the Times' special section on the ADA credit. Lauren Hall. By Amisha Padnani and Dan Sanchez. 1. Published July 20th, 2020. Updated July 24th, 2020. 2. Times Insider explains who we are and what we do, and delivers behind-the-scenes insights into how our journalism comes together. Disability is something that affects just about all of us at some point. If you weren't born with a disability, you may temporarily become disabled through an injury or an illness. Many people also age into disability or see a loved one, friend, or coworker live with it. We considered that as we planned this special project on the legacy of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was passed 30 years ago. As two of the lead editors on the project, we commissioned about 24 articles and essays publishing online Tuesday and in a special print section this weekend to coincide with the anniversary on July 26th. That considered disability as a widely shared experience that intersects with many aspects of modern life. Our sources included dozens of disability advocates who spoke candidly about their experiences, and many of the articles were written by well-known writers in the disability community. The conception for this section started when Peter Cautapano, a founding editor of the Opinion Section's Disability series, asked how we were thinking about our coverage of disability. We talked about highlighting the stories of important figures from the civil rights movement leading up to the passage of the ADA in a special edition of Overlooked, our history project that tells the stories of remarkable people who never got a Times obituary. It's become clear to me, he wrote in an email, that this community and its history in the U.S. is overlooked even among the overlooked. But the 30th anniversary seemed to call for something even broader. And so in addition to exploring the history of disability, we explored questions about the future, asking how are spaces designed for people with disabilities? How do the fashion and technology industries create tools for the disability community? What would happen if gene editing had the potential to eliminate disability from existence? We also asked actors and musicians how they felt they were being represented in the entertainment industry. In telling these stories, the writers used a set of language guidelines distinct from the rest of it at times. For instance, asking our sources to tell us their preference between the terms people with disabilities or disabled people and capitalizing the DOB in deaf and blind upon request in recognition of a person's cultural identity. To improve the experience for people using assistive technology like screen readers, we provided image descriptions in the form of alternative text or alt text. There are also audio versions of every article in this project. Some were recorded by voice actors throughout them, a company recently acquired by the Times, and some by the authors themselves. For the rest, we use text-to-speech software for Microsoft and Amazon. Image description, sheets of paper with the New York Times logo inside a printing press, pages of the Times getting embossed with Braille on an adapted Heidelberg printing press. Finally, the Clovernook Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired is creating digital Braille files so that each article can be read with an electronic Braille reader. The print section is also being made available in Braille on request. The National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled is making Braille and audio versions of the package available to its subscribers. The design of the print section, with its large type bold strokes and black and white color scheme, was intended to reflect the sense of urgency for the goals that the ADA had yet to achieve. Themes that run throughout the section are depicted in containers that were inspired by the flyers and banners of the monumental 504 sit-in, one of the most important protests in modern disability history. The illustrations were done by Hayley Wall, a London-based artist whose work explores identity, gender, and mental health. She cleverly uses negative space as a way to reframe our thinking of the challenges surrounding disability that society does not always recognize. It's not enough to look at disability only for an anniversary project. We plan to use the insights from this project to better incorporate disabled perspectives into shaping our coverage.
Hey, Ashley.
Disability deserves rich and varied coverage, and for that we want to hear from you. What would you like to know about disability and accessibility in America?
Alright, yeah, I messed that one up. But, okay, so I messed up on multiple levels. This is the problem with live streaming. Alright.
Tell Aspie contributed reporting.
So, let's see. Ashley says, I was diagnosed with autism when I was 2. Yeah, I know a lot of people who were. I actually know a lot of people with a dual diagnosis of cerebral palsy and autism. I'm doing pretty good. Just hanging out, I don't know if you caught the beginning of the stream, but I'm going to do a watch party where we watch a movie called Standing Up for Sunny. It's a romantic comedy with the dude from Breaking Bad who has CP. That's going to be probably the 3rd week of October. I hope it's really cool, and I hope you come back for that. How are you? And it's weird, right? Because I just wrapped up a discussion on functioning labels to describe autism, and at first my only issue with it in the beginning was that I had no other way to talk about it, right? But I think getting away from functioning labels is super important. I'm glad to hear you're doing good. Yeah, functional labels are pretty useless, don't you think? I don't know. Let's see what else. So the reason I shared the Times article that had to do with the journalism and the accessibility aspects of that series of articles is because I just wanted to highlight that and say that this is what we should be doing anyway, right? We should be making websites with accessibility concerns addressed at design time, like using image descriptions, making designs that are compatible with the vast majority of screen reading software, both the really expensive kind and the stuff you can get for free on the internet. I also wanted to highlight how diverse their pool of writers were in the different types of pieces that they were doing. And again, I think this is something we need more of, not just to celebrate the 30th birthday of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Let me think. Let's see. I'm about to wrap this up. Is there anything else I want to talk about? I'm not sure what to do with next week's stream, so if you have me on Facebook, just DM me questions or topics that you would like to see me address. For next week's stream, I am thinking that I might... Let me think. What do I want to do next week? If I can finish the game Control by next week, I would like to review that. That review is currently in the works because I'm still playing through it. They have lots of wonderful accessibility options. I really think that they've done one of the better jobs of making the game accessible to people with all kinds of different challenges, from cognitive to motor coordination to people that just need extra time to process crap going on. They have several visual filters that I want to highlight. It's going to be a fun time. That is going to be mostly like the game on the screen and me kind of running through the options and what they do. But that might be a couple weeks from now because I still have to finish the game. And I just bought a Nintendo Switch. So, yeah, dudes. Anyway, I guess that's the end. Is there anything else that you wanted me to talk about before I go? I'm going to wait 10 seconds because I know there's a delay. So if there are no other questions or comments... Oh, one stat I kind of wanted to leave you guys with. People with cerebral palsy are anywhere from 7 to 9 times more statistically likely to also be on the autism spectrum. So, that is definitely something to think about. Well, guys, I hope you had fun watching. I know I had a couple of pretty consistent viewers. I had a few of you drop in and out because you think Princess Aspien is adorable, and I think she's adorable too. I have links to everything I featured in the stream down in the description. If you're either on YouTube or Facebook, I will be back with another disability stream next Wednesday. If you guys have any topic ideas, please feel free to either hit me up on either of those social medias, or I think I have a thing with my email address on it. You can hit me up over here, and I will do my very best to address all of your questions and concerns. If any of you are wondering why I don't have captioning on my stream, it's because I would like to, but I can't afford it. I would have to pay for a live captioning service, and quite frankly, I don't have the money, and even the AI-driven services cost more money than I can currently afford. If that is something you guys would like, I would need to ask for help in covering the cost in order to continue doing this. But for the time being, I hope you will forgive me. Trust me, it's not because I haven't thought of it. I apologize for not having captions. I love y'all. I'll see you guys next week. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Bye.